Let's go to St. Petersburg in Russia, where the 2020 BRICS Business Forum is currently taking place. I say St. Petersburg, of course, but it's taking place virtually. There are leaders there and experts who are putting their heads together to try to see how they can accelerate economic expansion. With 40% of the world's population living in the 5 BRICS countries, financial cooperation, of course, is key in trying to find solutions. To try and help us through the issues is Busi Mabuza, Chairperson of the BRICS Business Council, and Fatima Vawda, the CEO of 274. Ladies, thank you. Can I begin with you, Busi? You represent business. And, you know, all of us who watch the markets, and in particular who watch economic cooperation, have been wondering where the BRICS has been while we've been hearing all these noises about the US-China trade war. From your perspective as a business representative from a BRICS member nation, what are you seeing in terms of cooperation between the BRICS nations as a counterweight to the US-China axis?
Godfrey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, we do. We wish we were in St. Petersburg for this particular meeting, which normally occurs on the eve of the meeting of the heads of state. I believe that China has become an increasingly more important player, Godfrey. You will realize that all of the other BRICS nations are actually going to be posting negative growth for the year ahead. We've just seen the IMF issue its revised GDP growth forecasts, and China is the only one that is holding its head above the water, both in this year and the coming year. And that has become a very important pull factor for the BRICS nations, because there is demand that's coming out of China, which is much needed by the other BRICS nations. I believe that the trade war between China and the US has, of course, opened up new avenues of opportunity for countries such as ourselves. And South Africa has looked for such opportunity even pre-COVID. And I believe that as we act on our recovery plan, this opportunity is likely to even grow further and deepen.
Yeah, let's talk about how that cooperation actually translates onto the ground into business, because I see here that you are talking about green and digital economies, global healthcare challenges, strengthening female entrepreneurship, food security, and financial cooperation. What are you seeing in terms of numbers of cooperation of South African businesses and other BRIC member nation businesses?
Would you like me to answer that?
Yes.
Let Busi finish, and then Fatima, I'm coming to you.
Thank you so much, Godfrey. The theme, of course, is a common vision for a sustainable future. So this is a shared vision for all countries. And the thread that was going through all of the sessions, and Godfrey, the forum has held meetings over a period of 3 days. Tomorrow is going to be the last session, the plenary session, where the 25-member Global Council will be meeting and concluding the discussions. Common themes that were coming through is strengthening the healthcare delivery systems across the countries, and there were shared lessons to be learned there. Protecting vulnerable communities, and we know that a number of the BRICS countries have these vulnerable communities, India, South Africa, Brazil, that need to be protected, and where government actually rallied to protect those communities. And the preservation of industrial capacity and preservation of jobs was a theme that was very, very strong across the board. And of course, initiatives towards the recovery of the respective economies, with China being the exception. And their infrastructure featured very strongly. Green economy is another very strong feature. And the digital economy was another lesson learned across the board.
Yeah. Come in, Fatima, if you like, because in part what I'm trying to understand is how we transition from the political cooperation that we know is being done at the heads of state level to the practical work of actually getting business in the BRICS countries themselves.
Good afternoon to you, Godfrey, and to your listeners. I mean, I think we have to take a step back here, and we've got to say, well, what is the share of BRIC countries collectively in terms of global GDP? So we're standing at over a third now, and we expect that to continue to rise given the prominence of China and some of the larger economies within this grouping. Also, the BRICS countries represent around 42% of the global population, so it can't be ignored. So if you think of that volume of people and potential for economic growth and prosperity and influence across the globe, you're talking about mutual beneficial trade and cooperation amongst those countries. So I mean, several things have happened on the ground. As my colleague Busi has explained, you know, we have the summit annually, but then we have several subcommittees that focus on a couple of areas. And one of the areas, for example, I play a role is in the financial services grouping. And within that grouping, I mean, one of the areas that we are really focusing on, as was mentioned earlier, is how to promote clean energy, how to promote climate change, how to develop principles for environmental, social, and governance integration within our economies, how to deal with SMME finance, how to deal with a better mechanisms to cooperate on the insurance front. So there's a whole lot of projects that we work on simultaneously amongst the various groupings. And, you know, we're beginning to see a good traction pick up within businesses of the respective countries. And we're hoping that, you know, that would also support South Africa in its economic recovery trajectory, in particular with, you know, if we relate to the announcement made by our president on the 15th of October and the plan that's been put forward in terms of the global recovery, but also in terms of South Africa's recovery. How can BRICS play a role in you know, catapulting that recovery, and can it be a catalyst to unlock foreign direct investment into our economy?
Yeah, I actually want to follow up with that issue with you, Busi, on the prospects of the other BRICS nations' markets being a potential conduit for South African goods, because we have seen the disruption of supply chains as a result of COVID-19. Are you seeing enthusiasm from South African businesses trying to get into these other BRICS nations, or are we still back to the old problem where the political leaders express a position, but business then finds practical impediments when they try to up the cooperation that the political leaders would have envisioned?
Firstly, Godfrey, undeniable fact is that all the nations got such a shock from the impact of the hard lockdown that everybody is looking for opportunities for expanding local productive capacity. That was absolutely clear. Secondly, the opportunities for collaboration, I think, came out very, very clearly in the discussions that we had, with several nations actually beginning to look for bilateral opportunities on digital platforms. There are a lot of opportunities. I believe India and China were looking at opportunities. Brazil and China were looking at opportunities. So we will start seeing pockets of bilateral initiatives as we snowball through the work of the working groups towards opportunities that can be implemented within the 5 member nations. Yeah. Of course, the New Development Bank was one such unique opportunity. Yes. There was talk when South Africa hosted the BRICS Summit of a smart payment system that could be used across the nations. That hasn't materialized, but we continue at working group level to look for opportunities that could benefit across the board. South Africa specifically, the Agriculture and Agribusiness Working Group has pushed hard for opportunities in the other BRICS countries. And this has begun to actually manifest in growth in terms of demand from those various nations. I believe that we'll see other sectors starting to piggyback on that success. Yeah. And I am actually quite enthusiastic. I think much as people want to address their shortcomings because of the shocks of the lockdown, there is a very open mind. People realize, the BRICS nations realize that we've never needed each other more than we do right now.
Yeah, I'm certainly hoping that someone who's listening will say maybe this is an area that I ought to be exploring. But I wanted to take advantage of the fact that I've got you two ladies here with me today to talk about, of course, the big event that is happening tomorrow. The finance minister is presenting his mini budget statement. Fatima, I don't know if you want to add anything to what Busi has said, please feel free. But my question to you is, are you looking forward to that presentation tomorrow with trepidation or with excitement?
Well, I'm looking at it with a bit of excitement because I think, a lot of stability and foreign direct investment, if we look at, for example, not the last 10 years, but the 10 years before that, when we had very strong institutions and strong stability in the economy, we raised foreign direct investment into our economy at significant rates in comparison to the last 10 years. And I think what we're looking for tomorrow, we've had the precursor to tomorrow, which was President Ramaphosa's announcement on the 15th of October, and more detail will be provided at tomorrow's meeting. I think, what we really want to see tomorrow is some form of fiscal austerity. In the space of, we need to close the hippo's mouth with regards to the deficit, but at the same time, more information regarding the pipeline of the infrastructure projects and the potential uplift to the economy as a result of that.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I was going to warn you though, Fatima, that actually statistics show that hippos kill more people in Africa than any other part of the world. So I hope the finance minister is mindful of that one. Busi, your thoughts?
Thank you, Godfrey.
Your thoughts on the budget tomorrow?
Definitely watching it. Definitely watching it. And
I was going to say, do you have any expectations and do you have any fears?
Look, Godfrey, first of all, I'm glad it's Minister Tito and not I who will be delivering that particular budget. But I think our National Treasury has proved to an uncanny ability to be able to walk the fine, tight rope. So we've never been where we are at the moment in terms of that tight rope. I, however, expect that we will hear from the minister a policy statement that first of all injects a level of some stability into the markets and because we will know what to expect going forward. As Fatima has indicated, the market is expecting to hear how we're going to fund these initiatives that are going to help the economy back into recovery. And of course, we can't leave out the vulnerable. And I'm pleased that the president has already announced that the social welfare initiatives will be continued until the end of the year. And I think the minister will be indicating what it is that is going to be cut in order for the government to be able to afford all of that. In terms of the debt, most of the emerging economies are, of course, at similar levels that we're at. That doesn't give any comfort. But I think if we have a prudent path to manage our fiscal state out of where it is at the moment, then everybody should be able to at least sleep at night.
Absolutely, absolutely. We certainly wish him well, but we certainly need him to be very much on the lookout of that dangerous animal called the hippo. 30 miles an hour at the speed of the animal, faster than a human being. It's got very big canines, very territorial. It will defend itself when attacked. I hope the minister is ready to take on the hippo. Ladies, thank you for joining us this afternoon.